welcome to Free Advice. I'm Christy Merriman here today with Dennis McDonald and Dr. Rick Hall from the University of Oklahoma. Dr. Hall is the Director of Financial Aid Services and High School and College Relations. Before we talk with Rick, I need to remind students that the University of Pennsylvania and Oklahoma City University will be on campus Thursday, October 26th. Okay, now back to Dr. Hall. Rick, this show is really entitled Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About the University of Oklahoma but Didn't Know What to Ask. So we're going to be trying to cover a broad range of subjects, starting with how does one get admitted? We know there are college curricular requirements. Can you explain those to our students and their parents?
I can. There are two basic sets of requirements that we look at. One you've mentioned called curricular requirements, and the other is performance requirements. Curricular requirements really means what courses have you taken in high school, and those set of courses are prescribed by the Oklahoma State Regents for Higher Education, and they involve 4 courses in English. They need to be college preparatory English. 3 courses in mathematics, and basically that means proficiency through Algebra 2 minimally. 2 courses in history, one of which has to be American history, and the last one are 2 science courses, and they both have to be lab science courses.
Okay, so for our students, basically anyone who graduates
Correct.
with the addition of that second Algebra 2 requirement, then they would be in good shape to attend the university.
Yes, ma'am. The curricular requirements really are the primary measure for admission, because after we see what courses students have taken, and we have basically prescribed, or the Regents have prescribed, 11 of the 20 or 21 required for graduation. It varies, I think, from high school to high school. But so approximately half of those courses are prescribed. And then the performance side of that is basically how well you do in those courses. And we look at one of three measures, really, to determine performance. One is obviously grades. If a student has at least 3.0 grade point average on a 4-point scale, then they're admissible. If they're in the upper 50% of their class, they're admissible. Or if they score a 19 or better composite score on the American College Test, they're admissible.
Okay.
So any one of those.
That's for the freshmen who just entered.
Yes, ma'am, and you raise a rather complicated issue, because the admission standards, again, prescribed by the state regents, are changing, and they will continue to change through 1992. The admission standards will go up for students entering in the fall of 1990. The basic difference in 90 is going to be that the ACT test has changed from an old test to an enhanced test. There's a slightly different structure or scoring mechanism. The real thing relative to the ACT that students need to know for next fall is, regardless of whether they've taken the enhanced test or the new test, the enhanced test or the old test, the old test will remain a 19, even though some of our publications indicated that it might go up, because both a 19 and a 20 equate to the new score of a 21.
I see.
So
And that gets more complicated.
Okay, a 21 on the
Enhanced test.
or 19
On the old
or
test.
above on the old test.
Correct.
Okay.
That is it.
Let's say we have a student who does not fulfill the curricular requirements, the high school courses that OU and OSU and I suppose any degree-seeking program
Indeed.
requires for admissions. What are the options to a student who still wants to pursue college at that point?
Well, there are several options they can pursue. One is, if it's just a curricular requirement and they meet the admission requirements from every other angle, then we just have to make up the curricular deficiency, and as soon as possible. The only time the University of Oklahoma can offer an opportunity to make up a curricular deficiency in regularly enrolled classes is in the summer session, and a student has to take the course, and we offer a make-up course in those 4 areas: English, math, science, and history, to meet the curricular deficiency. It's for no credit on your college transcript. and students are not allowed to enroll if they took another course, and they could at the same time. They cannot enroll in a course in an area where they're curricularly deficient. Okay?
They have to make that up before they can.
That's right, before they can work college courses in that area. They are also eligible to make up the curricular deficiency concurrently. It's possible to do that at a junior college or community college while they're still in high school. If they know they're going to be deficient, but they've got their schedule filled in high school and don't have an opportunity to take it, they can do it at another school or an education center. Ardmore has one as an example. I mean, there are some tests that will allow a student to get out of a course if they haven't taken the course, but they already have the ability. They could take an advanced standing exam, a CLEP test, a College Board AP test, those kinds of things. That typically you can't take the test until you've had the course, but there are some opportunities where and positions students get in that they can test out of the area.
Of course, any student could go to Rose State or any other two-year college and stay there a year or longer, I suppose, make up that deficiency and then transfer at some later time to OU?
Yes, sir.
As long as they have the performance requirements?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The performance, I don't want to make this more complicated than it needs to be. The performance requirements can also be made up. If you don't meet the performance requirements, then we will look at your performance at a community or junior college, and that's when we pay attention at that point to grade point average and number of hours you've taken and so on. In fact, one of my props that I brought today, this is an information book for prospective students, and it details admissions, housing, financial aid, scholarships, pre-enrollment, all those kinds of activities. It includes an application for admission and housing, and it details all the alternative admission procedures. If you don't meet the admission standards straight away and you want to come to the University of Oklahoma, we want to be in partnership with you to get here.
Okay.
And there are several alternatives detailed very specifically. And these are in your office.
You bet. We've got plenty of those in student services.
Okay.
All right.
When is the best time for students to apply?
Well, to the University of Oklahoma, they have some flexibility. Admissions is sort of the key that unlocks the door with respect to the rest of the entering processes like housing and scholarships and financial aid. So the earlier a student does it, the better off they are. But I cannot say categorically that you have to apply early. Some students apply the first day of class, and that's really the other extreme. For a student's sake, regardless of where they go to school, it's important that they apply for admission to the universities they are seriously considering, and that they do it as early as possible, and that they not necessarily wait until they're absolutely, categorically sure that if they've got 2 or 3, fine, apply to all 3. For the university's sakes and for the students' sakes, I wouldn't apply to 10 or 15, but they ought to have it narrowed down soon to 2 or 3 universities. If OU's on the list, or if OU's the only one, then they ought to apply right away.
Is there an application fee at the university?
No, ma'am.
I know many schools do have application fees.
No state school in Oklahoma requires an application fee for residents.
Okay. Okay, let's say a student's ready to apply. They know they have to take the ACT or the SAT and make a score on it. Do they, before they actually send in the application, must they already have an ACT score?
No. I mentioned in the performance area that an ACT test score is one requirement, or SAT. And if they meet other admission standards, if they have the curricular requirements either done or they're in progress, because that's what we ask for on the application, either what you've done or what you're working on. And they are admissible based on grade point average or class rank, fine. In fact, I would get on with it and get admitted.
Okay.
What does it cost at the university? I know tuition and room and board and books and all of that gets kind of hazy when you talk to those big numbers. Is there any way we can kind of split it down to give people kind of a closer estimate of what we're talking about per credit hour?
Yes, ma'am. Per credit hour charges at OU, I believe, are $40 now I'm supposed to know this. 4160, I believe, or 4460. It's 4460 per hour for lower division courses. Perhaps to put that in a little better perspective, let's talk about the general direct cost. To go to school to OU for a whole year, for room, board, books, tuition, and fees, everything except spending money, it's right at $5,000, just under $5,000, about $4,900. And that's everything that will be out of pocket expenses. You can expect housing to cost roughly $1,400 to $1,500 a semester, or about $3,000 over the year. Tuition is roughly $600 or $700 a semester, or $1,200, $1,300 for the year. There's a set of fees for facility fees and a health fee that run approximately $130, and books vary anywhere from $200 to $500, depending on what your degree program is and those kinds of things. If you add all those things together, it comes out to about just under $5,000. One point of not really of contention, but of confusion, I think, for students is a lot of times, especially when they work through the financial aid office and they talk about a need factor that's being determined, how much money they may need to go to college, and what kind of budget that need is based on. In that context, we add in living expenses. Okay, I mean miscellaneous and living, over and above educational expenses. So you can look at a budget for a student who's applied for need-based aid, and we may quote $7,000, and a student or a parent especially was expecting to pay $5,000, and they're going, where am I going to get that money? Who do I write the check to? I had a dad call one time and say, we've got, the 5,000 or so. Who do I write the other 2,000 to? And it's important that they know that that's not for us. That's to get the student through the process, whether it's toothpaste money or clothes or transportation, gasoline, insurance, all those kinds of things that are accompanying expenses. So budgets can be a little confusing. So I usually try to say direct costs, and then the bigger picture that includes living expenses and miscellaneous costs over educational expenses.
We send about 250 Norman High students a year to OU. Do you have any idea about how many of those actually live on campus versus at home? Any figures on that?
I can't quote you exactly the figures of what Norman High students live on campus. Many more than you might expect do. There's two advantages for Norman High students, I think, when they select the University of Oklahoma. One is they can reduce their living expenses in terms of direct costs now by $3,000 if they elect to stay at home.
Which is
significant.
Over half.
Yeah. And still be attending one of the best institutions in the Southwest, and that's truly an advantage for all of Norman. The flip side of that is another kind of advantage. A student can be about as far away from home as they want to be by not going home. If they elect to live in the dormitories, then they're on their own. They have a level of independence far above what they probably have now, and they only have to go home or go home when they need to, and they have the added advantage of home-cooked meal occasionally and laundry facilities, right. So it's really, we have a lot of students, and I especially talk to those students who are looking forward to getting away, to say to them, you can get about as far away as you want, but you're in control of it, where you're not in control of it when you move literally far away. So
there's that safety net just across 2 or 3 miles down the street.
Exactly.
That's good. You mentioned financial aid, and I know you're the director of financial aid services, so you are our best source of information. There are basically, from our understanding, 2 types of financial aid: the need-based aid and then the talent scholarships. Tell us a little bit about what a student needs to do to apply for financial needs scholarships.
Okay. Financial, let's get terms right first. There are 2 kinds of aid available to students. One kind is need-based, and one kind is talent-based or performance-based. And the two do meet. They can be commingled, and often are. For students who are interested in need-based money, and by far the most money is given away in that area or is made available to students in that area, there's one form that we use. We accept another form, but we primarily request the Family Financial Statement, which is available in your office and ours. Students need to pick it up sometime in December. They cannot file it until after January 1, and it is the one form that entitles them to be considered for every kind of need-based money that the University of Oklahoma administers, which includes all federal money, state money, institutional money, and even some need-based money that may be available from private sources. So that's the one form that you use. A lot of students have heard, and parents too, that qualifying for need-based money is difficult, that it's a convoluted, complicated process, and they are right. But we have a responsibility to them and to ourselves to make sure that they know and that the students know it's the only game in town. I mean, it's and OU itself participates in the distribution of $31 million every year. So somebody negotiated the process, a lot of somebodies. And I work hard and worry a lot that students don't self-select out of the process because they've heard it's difficult. Your job,
We do the same.
my job, is to make darn sure they apply, and that it's not so hard once you've been through it. It is intimidating the first time around, but it's possible to do it. People do it every year and get a lot of money from it. My own story is worth telling. I came from a lower middle class family. Never was hungry, but didn't have any money and had no idea how I was going to pay for college or if I would get to go. And the first time I filled out this form, and my mother and I got to be pretty good at it over 4 years.
You do it each January.
Each year, each January you fill it out. And I never had any talent. You know, it was the first time in my life I was glad to be poor. because the less money you have, the more money you qualify for in terms of need-based funds. Another explanation might be in order here too, and how we figure it out. Need-based money is determined on federal statute. It's law. It's called congressional methodology, and students we determine whether students need money or not based on that process, that methodology, and we basically look at what a student and a family can contribute, and that's called the family contribution, based on all the kinds of information they supply on this form. We subtract from that their budget, or we subtract their contribution from the budget that I mentioned earlier, and whatever's left, in simple terms, is the need. And then we make every effort to meet that need through various programs.
Okay. Then there's the other half, talent-based. It could be ACT score that's high. We have scholarships here that have to do with, for example, a test score on a government exam or something. Why don't you show the people watching what you all have set up at OU for all the other kinds of scholarships?
My second prop. This is the University of Oklahoma's Guide to Scholarships and Financial Aid. We really created it out of demand because, well, on a national basis, people were hearing stories that there was money left on the table, that scholarships were going unused for want of applicants.
I get those questions too.
And that's, at least, I can't say it's not true across the country, but I can say it's not true at the University of Oklahoma. But to make sure, and to make sure the public was convinced of that, we put together a guide that lists literally every scholarship the University of Oklahoma has. And there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. It's a book full, that's right. The ones that freshmen need to be mostly concerned about, I think, have to do really in two areas. You need to look at general scholarships at the university, and that has to do with general academic achievement not related to a major. Leadership scholarships that may be available that have no tie to a particular major. And then they look at departmental scholarships.
The majors.
And they're tied to a particular major. and those can be also commingled. OU also participates very strongly in the National Merit Program, and in fact, Norman High School over the last couple of years has contributed more national merits than any other high school, not only to the state of Oklahoma, but to the University of Oklahoma. And those are fully funded scholarships, and those are probably our biggest ones.
Okay.
About what percentage of students are receiving some type of financial aid?
Approximately 42%, something like that, of the entire student body. Almost half is involved in some kind of aid, either need-based or talent-based.
Now, we're running out of time as usual. If students want to tour OU, how do they go about setting it up, or if they want to come in and find out more information and sit down with somebody to talk about it?
The Office of High School and College Relations is the primary contact source for all information regarding the University of Oklahoma. All the things we've talked about, as well as touring the campus and setting up appointments to visit with faculty and meet students, all those things can be done there. And we do it every day. We average 4 or 5 families a day that visit our campus and meet with our faculty. They can call the High School and College Relations Office at 325-2151, and we'd be happy to set it up.
Okay.
Well, I want to thank you, Rick, for being with us today and answering some of our questions about the University of Oklahoma. And we'll be right back with some students from OU. Hi, we're back. Now we have with us a student from the University of Oklahoma, a former Norman High student, and actually one of my old English students from 100 years ago, Jennifer Coyle. And she is part of the President's Leadership class at the University of Oklahoma this year, and we're just thrilled to have you with us. Thank you. One of the big questions for seniors who are a little nervous about getting out of high school and going to college is, what is the biggest difference between high school and the university?
Well, the difference is, well, first of all, the size. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But also the way they treat you, you're more of an adult. They pretty much leave it up to you if you show up or not. That's pretty much, they think that, I mean, you paid for it. If you show up, that's kind of your problem. I mean, and sometimes that gets people into trouble, but also it's an extra incentive because you pay and you pretty much want to go get your money's worth. Also, you meet a lot of new people. There's so many people you meet from everywhere. It's really great. It makes you grow up a lot. That's pretty much the biggest change.
Your horizon.
Yeah. Also, studying. You have to learn how to study all over again. Cramming just doesn't hack it anymore. We used to study like the night before. Most time you start like 4 nights before, stuff like that.
Jennifer, why did you pick OU? Now, a PLC person is a strong leader, and you could have gone a lot of colleges, I'm sure. Why OU?
Well, first of all, I've grown up here kind of since about 3rd grade, and I've grown up around OU, so I was real comfortable to go there. OU is just a really nice, it has a nice area. It's really good academically. Also, the money situations like that. I live at home, so that cuts down on the money. I was just talking to Rick about how the money was
$3,000.
Yeah.
That's spent on room and board.
Yeah, so that's a lot
Okay.
cheaper for me too.
Okay.
Well, is it everything that you expected?
Yeah,
Is it more?
It's a lot different than you think it's going to be. You kind of just think that you're going to be a free, independent kind of person, and you're just going to go wild and crazy. But you are real independent, but you kind of become more responsible than you think you're going to be. Everything's rested on your shoulders pretty much. It's really fun. It's really active. You just are always going constantly.
Okay.
So.
Speaking of that, besides classes, are you involved in some other activities out there?
Yeah, well, I'm in PLC, and we meet.
What does that mean exactly?
PLC is a Presidential Leadership class, and it's a class where we get together, and they give us a whole bunch of opportunities to meet the leaders of the campus, the administration, and just the student leaders. Also, it gives us opportunities to join those clubs or try to be, get in those offices. We meet on Thursday nights, and I'm also in Crimson Club, and we give tours of the campus and stuff like that. And I'm a new member, so I haven't got to do that yet. We had one meeting, we just had a retreat, so I have to still memorize all the stuff and history and stuff. I'm also active in the BSU, and that's the Baptist Student Union on campus.
Okay. Is there about something for everybody? Could you say that?
Yes,
About OU?
there's everything. There's clubs like crazy.
Okay.
Do you think that helps you enjoy your campus experience?
Oh yeah,
more?
you definitely need to get involved because you'd be lost on campus. There's so many people that you really need to get involved, or you will be lost. It's better. It's a lot funner if you get involved.
Okay. Well, from your perspective, you've been out there a couple months now.
Mm-hmm.
If you could tell our students one thing that would better prepare themselves for college life, what would that be?
Study. Learn how to study now, because studying, like I said before, you can't cram anymore. You have to learn how to study a few days before. And also, a lot of the classes, they give you reading assignments, and there's no homework. And until the test, you just are expected to have read that. And a lot of times, you push that off to the side, and you end up having like 8 chapters to read. So learn how to
I read
study.
Moby Dick once in a night, and that was the last.
That's exactly how it
Yes,
is.
it was.
So that's
It was
what's
a great.
wrong.
Yes, that's what's wrong with me.
So I think pretty much just studying. Also, keep yourself open for a lot of different kinds of culture and just neat stuff like that. Try to make yourself really involved. And that's about it.
I want to thank you for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
This has been a nice insight for our students to have a real live student. We usually have adults here, so this has really given us a new perspective. Dennis, do you have a scholarship you need to?
Well, let me just mention that Michael Cuman is a student here, a senior. He, I'd just like to congratulate him because he placed first at Central State University in the United States Senate Youth Scholarship Program. So he's one of 10 other finalists around the state, semifinalists from around the state, who will now go to an interview, and he's going to write an essay. Hopefully, out of those 11 semifinalists, Michael will end up one of the 2 finalists. If that happens, he's the winner of a $2,000 scholarship and a trip to Washington, D.C. to represent Oklahoma. So I'd like to congratulate Michael for that and hope he manages to be one of the 2 finalists.
Okay. Well, I hope so too. Next time, we don't know what we're going to do. Tune in and watch us.